Hello and welcome into Preps to Pros. I'm Cooper Petagna alongside Andrew Ivins, and it has been a busy week in college football recruiting as we inch closer to signing day in about 3 weeks, December 21st, early signing day, one of two. And we'll start in the SEC, Andrew, and we're going to start at Rocky Top, where Josh Heupel and the boys are getting hot on the defensive side of the ball. They get one of the biggest commitments in their class. That is from four-star and top 247 defensive lineman David Hobbs out of the state of North Carolina, a guy that averages over 14 points on the hardwood, plays all three phases, a guy that's getting it done at running back, quarterback, wide receiver for his high school team right now, Drew. But I thought this was one of the bigger additions of Josh Heupel's class.
Absolutely. Cooper, you said he's top 247. I think he might be a top 32 guy when it's all said and done. You know, we're getting in the process of finalizing our 5 stars, and Hobbs is a guy that me and you and our other colleagues keep bringing up. And he is an athletic interior defensive lineman. You mentioned the stuff on the offensive side of the ball. I would encourage anyone to get on Huddle. Look it up. You got a 270-pounder playing tight end running away from people. So we like Hobbs a lot. I really just like what Tennessee's doing on the defensive side of the ball. We know what they've done this year on offense, that they throw it around the yard, but they need to improve that defensive unit. And Hobbs, to me, is a potential centerpiece in the trenches. They got some other defenders committed that we like, Jadavian Bradley, Caleb Herring, some edge players. And if you go back to really the 2022 cycle, what they got, I mean, they're stacking chips on that back seven and the front seven. So if you're a UT fan, you should be fired up.
Give Tim Banks, defensive coordinator, a lot of credit. If there's one place Tennessee needs to improve, it's up front on the defensive line. David Hobbs should certainly help. All right, Drew, let's head to the Plains where Cadillac Williams, the interim head coach, that tag is off. Hugh Freeze is in. But before Hugh Freeze arrives, Auburn getting busy on the recruiting trail, flipping one of the best interior defensive linemen in the country from Baton Rouge. That is Deron Reed, in a big, physical, nasty specimen on the inside for the Tigers. He'll be playing his ball on Saturday for Hugh Freeze. And Drew, I thought this was kind of a sneaky good pickup, even though Deron Reed's somebody that we like a lot. This isn't getting talked about enough. I think this is a big plus for Auburn, and this stings a little bit for LSU and Brian Kelly.
Well, Coop, go back on Preps to Pros, back during the summer months, we kind of said Brian Harsin, it felt like they were taking some low-hanging fruit, right? Some recruits that were talented, but other people weren't exactly pushing for them. Deron Reed, I mean, this is a defensive lineman that pretty much everyone in the country wanted. You talked about LSU. He was linked to Ohio State a while back. Miami was in there. Georgia's been there. I mean, everyone wanted him. And I think really this is a testament to Cadillac as the recruiter, a testament to Auburn's fans. I mean, you kept joking, hey, head coachless Auburn's recruiting better than a ton of different schools. And to get Reed in the boat is certainly notable. And I think it's a sign of what's to come. I would anticipate Auburn is going to have one of the better finishes here over the next few weeks.
Cadillac Williams, retained by Hugh Freeze, gets a nice promotion as well, associate head coach with the new regime. Drew, I want to talk a little bit about the finish for Auburn because that's been talked about right now. The Tigers sit at number 32, and even under Brian Harsin last year, they finished with a flurry moving into the top 25 late in the process. What do you see for Auburn in these next couple weeks?
I think you got to look at Langston Hughes, right? The school outside of Atlanta. Jelani Thurman, the top 100 tight end. Coop, me and you are huge fans of him. He's been a regular on the Plains. He has kept visiting there time and time again. So, what do they get him? And I think Ruben Bain, the top 247 defensive lineman out of Miami Central, he's another kid that has continued to show up at Auburn. And what's great if you are, Cadillac, if you are Hugh Freeze, is you can bring those kids back in for an official visit. So I think there's going to be some splash, but those are the two names I got circled: Jelani Thurman, Ruben Bain, and then Coop. What about the duo right in the backyard, Quay Russo and James Smith?
Oh, for sure. Two highly touted prospects out of the state of Alabama from the Montgomery area. I think those guys fit that program. I think they've been waiting on this hire, so that would be interesting to see. Alabama, Nick Saban also involved. In the last week, Auburn also picked up a commitment from 3-star edge rusher Brenton Williams, a guy they like a lot, 6'4 plus, 245 pounds. He's had a really good senior season at Opelika. I expect him to continue to trend up. But right now, Hugh Freeze sitting in a good spot as Auburn looks to surge over the next couple of weeks. All right, Andrew, let's head to the defending national champions in Athens, Georgia, and wide receivers coach Brian McClendon stayed on top 247 receiver Anthony Evans, who has been committed to Oklahoma and Brent Venables throughout the process. Remember, it came down to Oklahoma and Georgia the first time around before he picked the Sooners. This time in the last week, Evans flips his commitment from Oklahoma to Georgia. Drew, this is one of those guys you look at in the class, stature-wise, 5'10 and a half, 155 pounds, kind of floating around there. But this guy can really fly. I think he's going to add a different dimension to Georgia's offense.
For sure. Speed, 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 right? You watch Georgia, you know it's a pro-style attack. They want to beat you up in the trenches with that line, let the running backs go. And I think what they've kind of lacked is a true slot weapon that can take a top off of defense. And I think Anthony Evans is that. You're talking about a kid that took third at the Texas 6A 200-meter dash this past May. He can move. And just talking with some people in Athens, I think they've been trying to find this guy for a while, and then they get Anthony Evans in the boat. Kirby Smart, man, flexing the muscle on the recruiting trail. Silly season, Cooper. Looks like he's going to one school, ends up committing to another school. Then a couple months later, he's going to the school we all thought he would. I think we're going to see a lot of that kind of moving forward as we approach that signing day.
A lot of talk about Georgia's inability to create explosive plays through the air, really before that Tennessee game, that top four matchup that we saw between Georgia and Tennessee. They were able to do that in that game, but I think long-term, this is a really good get that fits that. Hopefully they solve that problem with a guy like Anthony Evans. Nonetheless, big get for Kirby Smart and Brian McClendon on the recruiting trail. No postseason for Mario Cristobal and the Miami Hurricanes. That means more time to text and annihilate recruits on the recruiting trail. We've seen Mario Cristobal. He is getting after it. He lives for moments like these. And in the heat of the night, all of a sudden, Miami flips a top 247 defender from a potential college football playoff hopeful in Michigan. That is Collins Acheampong from California. Drew, one of the freakiest guys in this class, 6'7" and change, 250 pounds. A guy that had a 32-inch vertical, a 4.2 shuttle, and a 83-inch wingspan. Missed most of his senior season with a torn meniscus, but when this guy is right, there's a lot of clay. I don't know if there's many more guys with his size, with more upside. Love this get for the Hurricanes.
Oh, for sure, Coop. He was number 16 on my freaks list. I said he looked like a creative player out of Madden, but maybe more so NBA 2K. I mean, this is a long, lanky defender. He's probably going to need some time in the weight room. He's been dealing with an injury, but Mario Cristobal, he wants to revamp and turn around that roster. I think they need to get some pass rushers in that building. A lot is leaving. They need to get guys coming in, and Collins is someone that we like a lot. You know, there was initially, where is he going to line up at the next level? He has shown flashes. We saw it at the Future 50 there in Bradenton this past summer as a long, edgy defender. I think Miami fans, you know, the comp you want is probably Greg Russo, you know, what he did with the Hurricanes and now the Buffalo Bills, and it's similar frames. So we'll see what they're able to do with him. And Coop, I don't think Miami's done when it comes to flipping defensive linemen. They got their teeth and their eyes sunk into Joshua Horton, who's currently committed to North Carolina. He's the same thing. You talk about height, length, speed, all that stuff. So Miami trying to rebuild that defensive line and get some developmental guys with upside in there.
Wouldn't be surprised if Acheampong maybe moves inside later in his career in Coral Gables, but certainly a guy that you want to bet on with those type of traits. Drew, we'll keep an eye on Miami's defensive line pursuit. They've obviously been busy. Jaden Wayne from IMG already in the boat. Mario Cristobal, as always, looking to finish with a splash in the 2023 cycle. Michigan preparing for a Big Ten championship this weekend as they face Purdue, but recruiting never sleeps. Jim Harbaugh and company picking up a pair of commitments from the state of Ohio and Jason Hewlett and Cameron Calhoun, two former Cincinnati commits, Drew, as Luke Fickell is on his way to Madison and Wisconsin.
Coop, I got two things here, right? I think the first thing that stands out to me, and we highlighted this back in the summer, you know, where is Michigan? They were just in the college football playoff. You look at the recruiting rankings, they're outside the top 25. Now they're slowly moving in there, sitting at 21, still plenty of meat left on the bone. You know, once Jim Harbaugh and them are done with that Big Ten championship game, he's going to do the in-home visit. So I anticipate them to keep rising. They're having to play a little bit of defense. And then the second thing is, how about Luke Fickell, man, right? You know, he changes addresses. He's probably still getting settled in the corner office there in Madison. And then bam, out of nowhere, two guys that he had committed at Cincinnati are now good enough to play at Michigan. So I think if you're a Wisconsin fan, you got to feel good about what Luke Fickell does in terms of identifying talent, because he had those kids ready to play in the Big 12, not the Big 10. So that's what stands out to me.
Oh, absolutely. When you look at these guys and how they fit in Ann Arbor, these are the type of guys that Jim Harbaugh has kind of made a living on. Jason Hewlett, 6'4", 220 pounds, a three-phase player. Has been banged up a little bit, but getting to see him this season, certainly a guy that we've really liked and bumped up recently. And then Cameron Calhoun from Winton Woods, a long corner, under 6 feet at 5'11 plus, but really kind of long frame, reactionary athlete, plays really good man-to-man ability. We've seen that, like his upside there. I think he fits what they want to do from a defensive back standpoint. So you like what Michigan is doing. I think they're all about fit when it comes to the evaluation process. So Jim Harbaugh, once again, strikes in really why nobody's looking. Nobody's really kind of talking about these two pickups for the Blue, but really like this on Michigan's end. Alabama and Nick Saban only landed their second commitment of the cycle from the Sunshine State, and that is three-star receiver Jaron Hamilton, a guy that we like a lot, Drew, but big picture-wise, Alabama usually a little bit more active in the state of Florida. But that being said, we still got 3 weeks to signing day. Is there more to come for Nick Saban and company?
Well, Coop, over the past 3 years, Nick Saban and Alabama, I mean, they've taken whatever they wanted from the Sunshine State. They've signed 15 Floridians over the past 3 cycles. Like you said, only 2 guys committed right now. I would anticipate that number rising. Over the weekend at the Iron Bowl, you had Damari Brown, a 4-star cornerback there. Alabama battling Miami and Florida State for him. You also had Ruben Bain, the top 247 pass rusher out of Miami Central, sack artist. He's a guy that has Auburn in his top group of schools. Louisville's in there, Miami as well. And then you got the big fish, Keon Keeley. We've gone back and forth. You know, we all thought Keon Keeley, as soon as he decommitted from Notre Dame, it was a lock to Alabama. He flirts with Ohio State, but sounds like this one's trending back towards the Crimson Tide. And then another guy, Desmond Ricks, the corner who reclassified from 2024 to 2023. He's going to take an official visit and be in Tuscaloosa right before signing day. Cooper, I never bet against Nick Saban with a defensive back. Kids seem to like to play for them. So Alabama, keep an eye on what they're going to do in Florida here over the next few weeks.
No doom and gloom in Tuscaloosa, the tie with the #1 class in the country in 2023. A lot of meat left on the bone as we inch closer to National Signing Day. NC State staying busy on the recruiting trail as they added a pair of commitments over the last week. One of those coming from the state of Florida, that is running back Kendrick Raphael. Another one coming from the state of Alabama in Mobile, that is Kelvin McBride, the linebacker, two-way standout. A guy to like. And Drew, these 2 pickups, they kind of stand out to you a little bit.
NC State, man, you know, they might not have top 25 recruiting classes or top 15, but they go and get guys that are developmental takes, and they normally hit on them. I mean, look what they did on the field this season. Let's start with Kendrick, the running back. I mean, this guy is super productive there at Naples High School, plays in a weird throwback formation T offense alongside a running back that's going to go to play at Arkansas. So, you know, he's splitting touches, but he still has ran for over 4,000 yards in his career, close to 50 touchdowns. And Cooper, to me, what I like about this kid is he's not the biggest individual, but he finds ways to break tackles. And then when he's in the open field, he's got that gear where he can hit pay dirt and find the end zone. He's also a big monster in the weight room. I've compared him to Jaquez Moore, running back for Duke, who had a similar profile. He came on late this season for the Blue Devils, and I think he's going to be a name to know in the ACC. So I like what NC State is doing on the recruiting trail. Might not be sexy in terms of the rankings, but these are kids that are going to be part of that 2 deep, and they're going to make an impact in the ACC.
It's never sexy, but they just win. And Drew, on Kelvin McBride from the state of Alabama, like I mentioned it earlier, two-way standout, a guy super productive on the offensive side of the ball as a receiver, also plays safety, 6'3", 210 pounds is what we have him listed as. These are the type of guys you want to identify in the evaluation process as they grow physically. He'll move closer to the line of scrimmage, play at the second level. I really like this kid, really good ball skills. You can see him kind of morphing into a modern day NFL linebacker. So credit to Dave Doran and company for the job that they're doing. A couple big commitments for the Wolfpack. Kyle Whittingham and the Utes get a big commitment on the recruiting trail, picking up a pledge from top 247 offensive lineman Caleb Lomu out of the state of Arizona. And Drew, they had a lot of heat on this one. This was a big get for the Utes. They had to battle the likes of Lincoln Riley at SC. They go down, they battle Billy Napier in the state of Florida, Michigan, Jim Harbaugh as well. And typically we don't see Utah kind of get into these kind of battles, but when these guys are on the West Coast, Utah obviously has a strong brand.
Yeah, they do. And, it's a developmental type of program, right? You look at the commit list, what they've done in recent cycles, you're going to see way more 3 stars than you are 4 stars. So the fact that they can go to head with Jim Harbaugh, with USC and Lincoln Riley, Billy Napier and the Florida Gators, I think it says a lot. And Utah, when they get these type of kids in, they normally find success right away. Look at Lander Barton, the linebacker we loved last year at the All-American Bowl. So I like the take. I think this kid can play. And I think he's going to open some lanes for some Florida running backs. They had Jalen Glover. We saw him play as a freshman for the Utes. He's making an impact. And then they got a nice guy committed in Michael Mitchell from the Sunshine State. So the run game, the future of that looks good for the Utes.
Nice pickup for Kyle Whittingham. Lomu, 6'5", 265 pounds, moves really well, quiet feet, bends very well. I think the flexibility kind of stands out when you're looking at him on tape. I think the position versatility as well. Right now, playing left tackle, he's going to have to add some weight to his frame at the next level. Wouldn't be surprised if he moved inside. Maybe you see him at center at some point in his career, but nonetheless, big pickup for Utah in the Pac-12. Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame stay hot on the trail, taking advantage of Wisconsin's situation before Luke Fickell can even walk in the door. They flip a 3-star interior offensive lineman, Christopher Tarek, from the state of Illinois, and this is a big joker right now. Notre Dame, one of the best position rooms in the country when it comes to the offensive line room. Drew, you got guys like Charles Jagasaw already in there. We've seen other guys like Sullivan Absher, Sam Pendleton, Joe Otting, a couple guys in our top 247. Marcus Freeman putting a big emphasis on the big bodies up front.
You're Kenny Minchie, man. You're smiling, and why? Look at that Notre Dame commit list. Cooper, you just named 5 offensive linemen. I think that could be a starting 5 one day for the Irish. We know that they want to run the ball, but Kenny Minchie, he's going to have plenty of time in the pocket. Charles Jagasaw, he's a guy we think is a potential, day 1, day 2 selection one day. He's a really good wrestling record. So I think Marcus Freeman, Tommy Reese, that whole staff has done a good job of going out, identifying different types of body types. And these are guys that also should be able to redshirt for a season and then, suit up for the Irish there in South Bend pretty early.
Tarek, a big ugly, and I mean that in a beautiful way. 6'5", 330 pounds, kind of hovering around that area. He's going to have to work on reshaping his body a little bit, but a type of guy you kind of put in a phone booth on the interior, quick twitch, explosive, love his first step. He's not going to play in space a lot, but for what you want to do offensively in South Bend, be a north-south power run team, I think this fits exactly what Tommy Reese and Marcus Freeman want to do on the offensive front.